So this is Lydia, Blois, and Jamie Pearson from the Kings Canyon Museum, and we're here with Chester McMackin and Cecil Scullion in the 200-year-old Kings County Jail to talk about their experiences with living in the jail.
So could you both please tell us your full name and when and where you were born?
You go first, Cecil. You were born first.
Was I? Cecil Scullion, born 1940. Came to live here, I guess, when I was about 9 or 10.
Where were you born?
Titusville,
Okay.
which is about 8-10 miles from here.
Yeah, not very far.
My name is Chester McMackin. I was born in a little place called Fawcett Hill, population 23 in the tourist season. I joined the bank in 1948 at the tender age of 15 because the qualifications for education weren't too high in those days. And I got my father to apply for the job because I was too shy as a farm boy. It was on a Friday, and Father came back and I was anxiously awaiting the response. And I said, "What did the banker say?" He said, "Send the boy in Monday, he's hired." We didn't have high standards for bankers in those days, and it never got to be as long as I was there. The big thing was to be able to say no.
Yeah. And count money, I guess.
So that's a brief history of how I happened to join the bank. Now, when I came to Hampton, it was 1952 for the full year there, and I got to board at the jail, not as a resident, but as a boarder.
Yes.
And I remember the food was great here, and lots of it, and the people were friendly. The people in charge were Cecil's father and mother, and $10 a week, which was a pretty good deal in those. They covered everything. Meals were good, and we played cards a lot at night. And it was only about a 3-minute walk trip down to the bank in the mornings, and I usually brushed it right till about 2 minutes to 9 when I got there.
And now, so you only moved when you were 9 to come. What did your family do before that?
My father worked for the, trying to think, he worked for the government and the bridge crews. You may have to help me here, we're going way back.
Oh,
so far.
that's all right. He had a lot of skills.
Oh yeah, but I think he worked on bridges before
Yeah,
he
I
got this
believe you're
job.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And was it in Titusville until you moved here?
No, we lived right in Hampton. I was born in
Okay.
Titusville.
And then you moved to Hampton.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I thought it was in 49 that they came. Well, yeah, because you didn't come till 51, you say?
Yeah, latter part of 51.
51. Yeah. Yeah. So I believe it was 49 because I think he had a 49 Studebaker before he bought his 50 Dodge.
Hey,
Remembering it based on
getting
cars.
up there.
That's what's important.
And what did you think? Like, were your parents like, okay, we're going to become jailers now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't a kind of a really unusual thing, or?
No, I mean the inmates that were here were just like normal people, but you know.
True. And there were some fine gentlemen.
Yeah.
I don't recall any ladies in jail. Of
No,
course,
well,
ladies are so perfect anyway, of course.
we did have one lady, but her husband was over here for a little while. They were from the States, and he got caught drinking, very intoxicated.
Oh, yes.
And she stayed upstairs on the 3rd floor there while he spent his week or two on this side.
Oh.
So she
she
wasn't-
wasn't a prisoner.
No, because he was driving, you know.
Yeah, so she needed a place to stay.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So she had to
It's a sign of the friendly people of Hampton, you know, to provide accommodation for a criminal.
Well, I suppose another $10 a week for my mother.
Could be that.
So what did your father and like daily duties as jailer?
Well, he was a deputy sheriff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as far as this building here, well, Mom, I guess, looked after everything over here, but his duty, he worked over in the courthouse and whatever deputy sheriff has to do with, worked under Leon Seeley, the sheriff. But it's sort of hard because like I'm going back so far and I'm only 9 or 10 years old. You know?
At this time. And how long were you here?
I think it was until 1954, I believe.
Okay. And did your dad decide to do something else then, or?
Yeah, he he got a stationary engineer license and he went to work in the annex in St. John.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, 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 many trades.
But I remember we didn't live here in 55 because he bought a 55 Dodge. And we went back up to our house that they own here in Hampton.
You'd be almost old enough to drive it then, Cecil.
I think I did drive that when I was 16. Yeah.
And you lived where the library is now. That was where
That's right.
you were
Yeah.
in there. And
Yeah. We went there first this morning and we were pointing upstairs, where was your bedroom, Chester, and where was my bedroom?
were you just down the hall from them, or were you down the hall from them, or were you in a different part of the
I think it was third floor to the jail, wasn't there? Or
Yeah, third floor. You think you were up on the third floor?
Well, I was up on the upper deck
Upper,
anyway.
okay.
Sort of the what would you call it, the penthouse apartment.
So you weren't in like where the library is then?
Yeah, that
was it.
upstairs.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because downstairs was a dining room where you fellas ate and played cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
How many boarders were there? Was there just you?
At your
time.
the magistrate, Art
Art
Kelly,
Kelly, he stayed with us.
He stayed there
Yeah.
as
Full
well.
house?
He was a good card player too.
Yeah.
I think maybe sometimes the card playing, there might have been a bit more involved in that, and there were some court cases that were delayed the next morning for a while, but we won't go into that.
Oh, wow.
And so
Use your
mom,
imagination.
did your mom do all the cooking, or?
Well, there was a lady that lived with us that she did most of the cooking.
Faye,
Yeah, I can't remember.
A nice
Faye
lady.
Gray. Faye Gray. That's
Okay.
nice lady. She didn't say much, but she was good, and everybody was kind to her, as she was good to people. A good cook too.
And you say there was a cookhouse just outside
yeah.
the
There was
jail
a
now?
wooden attached to the residence, but that's
Okay.
gone. That building.
Okay, and that's where she kind of did everything.
That's where the outside kitchen was, I guess you would call it.
Yes,
Yeah, big wood stove there, or wood
Yeah.
oil, but it must have been oil.
probably.
Yeah.
Propane?
No,
No.
but I cooked a lot of the breakfasts.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did you cook?
Porridge.
Did
She
you have
was
to
very
deliver
good at
them
it.
as well, or
There's what's that?
did you deliver them to the different?
Well, they were allowed to come down, and there was a window at the back of this building that opened up, and they'd come with their teacup and get their tea and their porridge.
Oh, okay, so
And the reason I cooked the porridge because it was Ogilvy had a contest on. You get so many coupons, you get a free bite. Oh, I never got the free bite, but the prisoners got a lot of porridge.
That's hilarious. So there was no kind of set thing of what you had to feed them then, it was just...
No, well, they sure get tired of that porridge after a while.
Yeah, but they really got good meals and mounds of it too, because I could see the plates going out, and it wasn't a question of bread and water at all.
No.
And there were no beatings or savagery towards the prisoners.
Prisoners.
Everyone was respectful towards the others.
And what kind of meals were they? So did you eat the same that they?
Yes, I'm sure I did. Regular meals that you would have at home, maybe even better than you have at home. Of course, I don't know what you eat. You probably eat chips and pop and stuff like
No.
that. You young people.
And so would you have like your basic meat, potatoes, vegetables? Those kind of
Absolutely,
things? Yeah.
and lots of it.
Mhm.
And back in those days, there were the overnight guests. Would you remember them? They were allowed to come in, spend the night. You know, like I'm talking about the people that travel the railroad, the boys.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And my parents would search them because there would be bottles of rubbing alcohol and shoe polish and stuff like that they wasn't allowed in the jail. Well, they got the breakfast in the morning before they went, but they were allowed to come and sleep in the jail.
Whatever,
Oh my goodness.
whatever available space was.
Yeah, if there was available space.
Was
I mean,
there-
you'd only get one or two once a month or something like that coming through, and they knew that they could come and spend the night.
Yeah, wow. That's,
And I think my mother got 25 cents to give them a breakfast or
Is
something
that-
like that.
Whole quarter.
Yeah.
Expensive.
oh my goodness. I guess one of our questions was, are there any prisoners in particular that you remember a story about? Certain if you had conversations with any of them, or...
Not particularly, but I do remember one slightly built fellow who was an expert carpenter. He knew how to do everything, and I have no idea why he was in jail. He was, just seemed to be an ordinary kind of a person, and so that any thoughts of mean murderers and that sort of thing, they didn't seem to come here for whatever reason. Perhaps it was the inspiration of good people like Cecil and I who influenced them to be on their best
Most
behavior.
Do you remember any prisoners in particular?
Well, I remember a couple. One fellow that came here was caught in Sussex. He went to sleep in the bus terminal of the restaurant because he'd been drinking, and of course they found him there. He ended up down here, but he was a real nice fellow, you know.
Mhm.
I can't mention any names, but
Oh, sure you can. The age of limitation, good heavens, we're talking 60 years ago. Surely nobody will sue you now, Steve.
But no, there was no kind of extreme character.
No. I don't know whether what do we call them, the hardened criminals, whether they went somewhere else?
I
or
think
not.
I think if they got over, I don't know, 6 months or a year, they were carted off to Dorchester.
Yeah.
Somewhere
Yeah,
else.
I'm pretty sure of that. Yeah.
So were there very many in the solitary confinement one?
I only remember one because there's just one little window in there.
Yeah.
That's a
Yes.
mean cell,
Oh, they're very
Mhm.
mean.
and I don't know what happened to him,
No.
but that's right across.
He would have been,
There were.
Yeah.
he would have been maybe a more extreme case.
No, I was allowed downstairs here because these were the good guys. I never was up. I was telling Chester I never was upstairs till 2 years ago when
Oh,
that
really?
night.
You just weren't allowed as
No,
a child,
my parents
or-
didn't want me up there. But these fellows, people down here, were just like you and I, you know.
Mhm, very much.
Yeah, I think there was either 2 or 3 in this room, and I'd come in, and there's comics here, and they had their tobacco in those days, and you know.
Mhm.
So they weren't. It wasn't like the door was shut and it was always locked if you were in here with them sometimes, or.
At night, we had to lock, or I probably did a lot of times, the door we came in there, that door was locked so nobody could go out in the yard.
Okay, but these were left open, the cell?
Downstairs, it was all open.
Oh, wow.
But going upstairs, that door there was locked.
Locked, and then the
Oh,
one
okay.
up was locked. Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Wow.
tell them about the strings lowered down with money for the school kids to buy cigarettes for the prisoner.
I didn't even know about that. I knew, well, my story was the rope came down, but the little bottles of liquor went up.
Oh, yes, I had heard that one.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
but
I never witnessed it.
But I was afraid to tell anybody because these boys gave me all their comic books. So
Bribery.
Yeah, exactly.
So would you be walking outside along the side of it?
So would they holler out at you? Or?
Sure,
And
yeah.
then they drop down
rope would come down, and the other lady this morning was saying about somebody, that the woman lived on this street, that she went and got the cigarettes for them,
the. Yeah, she told the lady at the store it was for her mother.
for her mother, yeah.
Her mom didn't smoke.
I do remember one instance where your father had to admonish the prisoners because having nothing better to do, I had a particular girlfriend who turned out to be my wife, and she walked by and she was a nice looking gal, of course. I only choose the good looking one.
I always choose.
And they whistled at her, you know what men will do. He told them in no uncertain terms there was to be none of that. But it's the only time I ever saw any form of,
Kind of
and he meant it too. And of course, I suppose they put their heads down and
Yeah.
didn't do it anymore.
No. So did they, were the prisoners, were they here very long, do you remember? Or was it very short?
Usually less than a year.
Less than a year.
Okay, so
Usually.
It wasn't anybody would be here over a year.
Minor offenses.
Yeah,
still
yeah,
pretty long
maybe
time.
out jacking deer
Yeah,
or you know, caught drunk or bootlegging or
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. But much less severe, like if you have kind of the door open,
Yeah.
if you're, I'm not sure because you guys don't know what it was like upstairs necessarily, but not really when you picture jail today, it's much more
Strict
strict
great
and
Caesar,
closed.
you'd have security and
Yeah.
armed guards and that sort of thing.
Do you remember anyone escaping while you were here?
Well, there was one incident, but it wasn't an escape. It was I let a prisoner out.
That was nice.
Really?
Another bribe probably gave him a quarter.
Well, it was a bribe. It was for comic books. But he
Is
had,
that what it was?
he-
And you let him out like the door, or?
I left it. He was downstairs. I wouldn't let anybody out from upstairs.
No.
And he had a girlfriend in St. John, and he wanted to go see, and he promised to be back. So I left that door unlocked, and the door unlocked in the courthouse. So he went through that door, down into the basement of the courthouse, out a little window, went to visit his girlfriend in St. John, came back,
came back.
Well, I mean, I'm only like 10 or 11 years
Oh,
old.
yeah, of course, comic
Mr.
books, you're
Innocent.
gonna
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
sure.
Exactly.
Doing his good deed.
Yeah, exactly.
He thought he was a Boy Scout.
I would have ended up as one of the people in here. God, parents never found out.
Did you ever
Really?
tell them?
Oh, but I never
You've
told them.
never told him,
No,
And
never.
he came
Lord
back
help
and
you
he
if
gave
he-
you comic books.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And came back.
For a 10-cent piece, imagine. That's as bad as Judas.
He came back.
Oh, yeah.
That's
It's a good job, right? I've been a pilot.
Oh, God.
Kalanka.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, visiting your girlfriend in St. John. I wonder how he would have gotten there.
Hitchhiked, I think.
Probably.
Hitchhiking was quite easy in
Oh,
those
those
days.
days it
It
was,
was,
yeah.
it was kind of a normal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, much more normal.
Yeah, you can just stick your thumb out,
Oh,
Next card.
go anywhere.
he's like Nerney.
Yeah. Or Paul Forstall, if you remember him.
Don't remember him. No.
Yeah.
No.
He was one of the local boys, and it was Karen's lived up at the end of the street. I don't know if you remember them or not, top of the hill, Bull Hill on the left.
Yeah, don't recall.
And Sheila Karen's mother gave money for cigarettes, go down and get cigarettes. Paul went down and came back about 6 months later with the cigarettes.
Well,
He decided to go to Ontario or someplace.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
goodness.
on her
Wow.
cigarette money.
Yeah, on her cigarette
Oh
money.
my.
They had nothing to do with the jail, that's just a story.
No, that's just a
Yeah.
Part of the local
Yeah.
characters that we have.
Did living close to prisoners ever frighten you? Either of you? It was no.
Never thought of that
No.
at any time at all, no.
No, it wasn't a big deal then.
No.
I was telling Chester this morning, and he didn't remember that I had rabbits. There was a barn here, and the prisoners built the cages and everything for me. I had Angora rabbits there raised.
To a certain extent, they were kept their hands were kept occupied, so to speak, besides
Yeah.
reading comic books and so on, but nothing of any particular assignment, just things to do.
Yeah. Well, matter of fact, when they built I call it the vault on the end of the courthouse, do you remember that? They worked at that, and I think they got $4 a day.
Hey,
Wow.
that was more than I was making, for heaven's
Was it?
sake. I should have committed a crime and gone to jail, and I'd have made some money.
Yeah.
And now what made you want to come aboard here?
It was part of the tradition, I guess, as happened a lot in the bank, that one clerk would replace another and you sort of automatically took the boarding place.
Okay.
Oh,
So it
which
was just
worked
kind
out
of a
fine.
spot open and.
Yeah.
And in front of the jail, was that kind of like the yard that they had? Was it all like fenced off? Like
This was all fenced off at the back,
And it connected to the court?
to the courthouse.
Okay.
Yeah. But there was double gates where you could drive in between
Where
the
was
courthouse and the jail.
driveways? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, and it was it like kind of how the fences are today?
Oh,
Like, you
they
can see
would
or not
be
really?
8 or 9 feet tall, I think, and barbed wire at the top.
Or there was
Nobody
barbed
ever
wire.
went
Yeah.
over that I remember.
No.
Well, the good food and everything, who'd want to?
Yeah.
I get let out once in a
Unless
while.
you could get out and commit another crime and come back in
I
again.
don't think they had color TV back then, no.
No, probably didn't even have TV, period. Maybe, early days.
I can't remember.
Early 50s, yeah, it was in its infancy
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
But it didn't make you nervous to come before you came here, just knowing you
No,
were board at a
not at
jail.
all, no. Didn't have enough sense to be afraid when you're only 15, 17 years old. No offense, girls.
So were there any chores that either of you had to do that were associated with like the jail or the jailers?
No, just pay my board every week.
That was the jail just sent to.
Yeah.
Nothing you had to do
No.
particular, no.
Oh, my mother had a little store right here, and,
Oh.
and I would work in that because they could buy chocolate bars and
Mhm.
pop and everything. It was the Ann one now.
Like a little
right?
canteen.
Oh, okay, the last side
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Do you remember the prices, Cease, for a chocolate bar?
I don't know, 5 or 10 cents.
Yeah. And pop?
About the same, I think. I think they could get their bar and their pop for 25 cents or something like that.
Jeez.
Yeah,
We're really old timers,
yeah,
especially Cecil.
yeah. Thanks a lot, buddy.
And now, do you remember, was it ever almost full when you guys were here, or no?
Almost what?
Full? with prisoners or no?
Oh, no, I think there was usually
Space.
2 or 3 spaces
Yeah.
at least,
Okay.
minimum.
Yeah.
And how were you perceived in the community because you lived in the jail? Was there any like stigma with it or anything?
Well, when I came here, Hampton was a village. I was known as the village idiot for boarding at the jail.
Oh.
But when we became a town, I was elevated to the station of town clown. And that's where I rest today.
Oh my.
You're not taking this serious.
We're not.
I thought this
sorry.
was to be an important, significant interview for the whole world to see. Now, stop that snickering.
Putting my serious face on now.
Are you in control now?
I am.
Good.
I remember I used to have all kinds of friends, and we'd play football on the front lawn of the jail, in the courthouse there.
Mm-hmm.
There was always a lot of kids around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
Did like any of them ever come with you in here to see? Was it like an exciting thing, or it was just another?
No, just
No?
No, I've always had a soft spot for Hampton after I got transferred at tender age. I met my wife here. She also worked in the bank. And we got together. There was a round vault in the bank, and she cornered me in it one day, and I was obliged to marry her.
How old were you then?
19.
19.
Yeah. And we used to, I think what stirred the romance more than anything, we used to have to make ink out of powder. It was shipped down from Toronto. It was either blue powder or red powder. Yeah, you posted with a pen, an old quill pen practically, with the blue ink when somebody had a credit balance. But if they were overdrawn, then the red ink came out. And so you had the pen in one hand, the blotter in the other, pen and blotter. Anyway, that's how I met my wife. Strange how the marriage only lasted 57 years.
oh, short
Yeah.
marriage.
Yeah, I was transferred to Toronto, and she chased me up there. You know, what's a woman going to do when she's got a good-looking man in her tow? Yeah. And as far as salary is concerned, I think I was making about, I might have been making $2,000 a year when I worked in Hampton here. And Esther, which happens to rhyme with Chester, she was only making $1,600. But when we got to Toronto, we had a combined salary of nearly $4,000. Wow.
oh, big money there.
Yeah, but we only lasted 6 months, and she went and got pregnant.
She went all by herself.
Oh, well, of course.
And now, did she think it was odd you living at the jail?
Not particularly, no. She boarded up the road at Earl Webb's, which was there's a big home up there. It was a farm at the time, and every once in a while I'd be courting her late at night, and I'd have to rap on the door and get Cecil's father to come down, let me in. I tried to keep that to a minimum because, you know, if you're getting bored for $10 a week, you don't want to anger your
Exactly.
provider.
Did she ever come down here with you and visit here, or?
Well, she worked here.
But did she ever visit the
Visit
jail?
the jail, like when
Oh,
you were here? Yeah.
no,
No.
no. I tried to keep that a secret, but it's hard to keep a secret in Hampton. We're not a big enough town for that.
Especially when it was a village.
Well, that's right. True enough.
So when you were only here for a few years with your family then, and then you moved back to your other home?
Yeah, up the hill there.
And did you ever want to become like a jailer or anything like that interest you at all?
No.
It was just kind of another job that your dad had picked up?
Yeah.
So do you know if another family moved in here, or?
McManus, I think it was.
I don't remember. I guess that was after my time.
And Walker was after that. Everett Walker came over. Of course, they're all gone now. But you would, when I had gone to Hampton.
Mm-hmm.
Chester and I are neighbors now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Staying close.
Yeah,
There
we're
you
staying
go.
close.
Right.
We're both widowers. I was married 50 years. We hollered at each other across the lawn there.
Oh, we bellow as
Yeah.
necessary. We get mad at each other, we can throw rocks.
Yeah?
Do you still make him porridge in the mornings?
No.
Never.
I get some of his...
I can make my own porridge, don't you know.
I get some of his fudge once in a while. He brings me over a pack batch of fudge.
Yeah, we're gonna have to try that.
I'm excited to try it. Now, do you guys have any stories in particular you wanted to tell about jail or living here or life in Hampton in general at that time? Don't feel pressured. You don't
No,
have any,
I've pretty well covered my comedy act, if you want to call it that. And Cecil probably got some stories, but he's too shy to
Yeah,
tell
too shy.
them.
I do remember one, I don't know if you were gone at the time, but the boys were acting up bad upstairs and they broke all the windows out. I think they must have got into some of the booze, eh?
Oh,
So my father says, well, fine, you know, I'm not going, this is in the wintertime.
Oh, you won't have any windows.
You guys are gonna pay for that. So there was another little window upstairs, that's how they got their meals. They weren't allowed out of there for 3 or 4 days in the wintertime. But they quieted down pretty quick.
I would
Oh,
well
it would be
imagine.
so cold.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did he put windows back in soon after? Or
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But gave them a
Just
little bit of time
smarten
to...
up.
Yeah, to smarten up, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
no, they were real, not the downstairs boys, but the ones up.
The upstairs. Well, it's cold enough, like today is quite warm outside and it's
Mhm.
still
Yeah,
it's
Yes.
chilly in here. It must have been very chilly in the winter times. And is it warmer, do you find, over where the library is now, where you guys lived?
well, they were all, building was heated from the courthouse. They're all big, do you remember them heaters?
It was always, oh yes, the giant ones against the wall, radiator.
Radiator.
Like the one behind you?
Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah, that's
So
them.
that's what
Oh,
was.
it could be very warm.
Oh yes, oh, there's times you'd open the window a bit in the
Yeah.
winter time.
See, it was all.
They didn't spare the
No,
heat
because
at
it was all coal furnace over there, because that's where I found all those helmets that I saw.
Sold for $0.25 apiece.
in the
Very
back of the
enterprising
coal
young
pits.
man.
Yeah, and the stamps. Oh, I have some old stamps. Found
Oh.
old letters, old envelopes.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm gonna end up in jail, aren't I?
Well, we're already there now.
I'll visit you.
Thanks, Chester, bring some
No, that's
fudge.
all right. And of course, from the dividends you'll get from this TV interview.
Yeah, I like dividends,
You'll be all right.
Chester, I like
You'll be all
dividends.
right.
Yeah, world famous, you get some royalties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you have any siblings here living with you?
My brother David.
Your brother,
yeah.
was he older or younger?
No, 5 years younger. He's a doctor, he lives over in Maine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he would have been quite young at the time then.
Yeah.
So was he allowed anywhere kind of near any?
Well, I mean, he was really young. I'm 12 and he's like
He
7.
was almost a baby.
Yeah.
Or I say, can he be almost a baby?
He's
I don't
7 or
know.
6 or whatever.
Oh, you're 6. You're
Yeah.
very young.
Yeah. So I can't remember that much about, David growing up here, because...
No.
But he wouldn't have been probably allowed.
No,
No.
oh, no,
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 he wasn't.
no. I do remember one story that came back now with my father. He had a wooden gun case for his 303, eh? And I got the bright idea, I'd like to have a race cart, because we used to have those race carts in Hampton.
Oh.
And I got the prisoners to build me a nice race cart.
Out of, guess
And
what?
my father went looking for his gun in the gun case and couldn't find it. When he found out that was he mad. I think that's the only time I've ever seen my father mad.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that could stir up some anger, I'm sure.
So having the prisoners here, it was just kind of like your own personal construction force.
Yeah.
Rabbit cages.
Yeah, if I needed anything, built a rabbit cage. Or, as long as I went and got the comics for them, everything was fine. We had a good agreement there.
Oh my goodness.
I should have kept those 500 comics that I had in a box when I
Oh, they would
moved.
have been worth some bucks
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I had saved them all. I think I gave them all away when we moved back up the hill.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And now, how would they have, so you would go out and buy comics?
Yeah, down to the drugstore.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were 10 cents then,
Yeah,
weren't they?
they were 10 cents.
And bring them for them.
So the men that were in here, were they kind of like in their 20s, 30s, or were they older? Or do you remember?
Well, old to me then would be 30, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I would say inclined to be 30 and up more. So I don't think I don't
Anybody?
remember a really young person
No.
being in
No.
here.
Well, thank you very much, both of you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate your
yes.
time.